the mic's on me.
Be van kapva.
Mic's on me.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know exactly what we should do. But may I ask, Gábor, how did you become a writer? Because I couldn't become a writer. I'm just historian.
When I was 16 years old, I was in a winter camp with youngsters, more or less in my age or a bit older than me. And in the night, after a couple of glasses red wine, a young lady in a very intensive talk spoke about that she has so many feelings, so many stories. Very start of my writing.
Yes, I have realized in your short stories you stay away from the protagonist. Who is the protagonist? Who is the sufferer in most of your stories? And that's very, how could I say, is it a polite thing to do or how to interpret that? Tell me.
To give the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, it is something that a writer has to do. To give a chance stories to be told, to give a chance to sufferers to document at least to document their sufferings, to talk about things that people cannot talk about. Later, almost 30, 40 years later, I realized that this is very special phenomenon of the survivors of social traumas, the totalitarian traumas, the Holocaust, the camps, either the Nazi camps or the Stalinist camps or the people who were suffered under different dictatorship, that they cannot talk about directly on their feelings, so somebody has to find their voice, somebody has to find the words to try to talk about the feelings they felt but they couldn't talk about. And it was a very special phenomenon of the second generation, third generation of the Holocaust survivors to talk about the feelings the parents couldn't talk about. And this was a very own experience of mine that just later realized. So at first I write about general stories, but I didn't realize what is behind this necessity to write about these stories.
And it's very interesting that it seems to be that you can distance yourself altogether of the protagonist. And that's very, very strange to me, because there is nothing of you in those short stories.
There are two kinds of narrative. I realized in my books that to find the voice of the first-person narrative, to talk about the phenomena, to talk about the feelings of the main protagonist, I just started in later phase of my writer's career after 20 years of writing. And the trilogy, for example, my Kafka trilogy, I use this first-person narrative, and somehow I give voice to my very own experiences too.
Sorry, I didn't experience that because I read only about
the short stories.
Yeah. Sorry to say this, but in this book, I have to confess, I felt you are so far away.
So you didn't find the narrator in the stories. You didn't find it's objective, very objective.
I didn't find
very objective
as
side.
if you were writing objective history or documentary, and that a little bit bothered me. Where is Gábor hidden somewhere there between the lines or somewhere? I don't know.
maybe the historical context makes it that the narrator, the writer, has to be a bit distant. So he himself or she herself has to distance herself if she is a narrator from the experiences of the protagonist.
It was very hard to find whether you put yourself in the positions, for instance, those people who want to retribution. Those two guys want to blackmail the old Nazi. You weren't there.
There is the aggression in these stories, and there is the aggression in the other stories when two older generation, second generation survivors, the two sons of Holocaust survivors kidnap an old member of gendarmerie, and they try to make him confess his sins by watching them, showing them Holocaust documentary for 24 hours per day. So there is aggression in these stories, and there is drama between the character.
But you were never involved in these situations in your life.
I wasn't. It's somehow it's a surrogate these stories to show what can be happened if this kind of aggression takes place in real context in the society.
What can I say? There is a story about a woman who lives in the very traditional backwoods Hungarian village. How could you put yourself into that woman's mind who had a child who was very abnormal, dumbfound, and when he grew up, he had his sexuality, some intentions, and he tried to satisfy himself with animals. How can you put yourself in the position of the mother? That was how could I miraculous.
All of these stories takes place in a situation when the main character somehow belongs to some minority. It can be ethnic minority, it can be lifestyle minority.
But wasn't that woman?
But the mental handicapped child himself is a minority, in a very sensitive situation, because the children themselves, they are in minority positions. This is the biggest minority in the world ever, the children. And I use this minority position and minority
to extremes.
Aspect, not just in this extreme situation, but in other books of mine, this minority position, the view of a child and children, it shows very much from a society or from the existential situation of a society, because the child sees these phenomena and sees the family and see the dictatorship within the family. And in this short story you mentioned from this book, there is another character in minority position, the lonely mother who were left by her lover, who is the father of his son. And she is also in a very strange situation in a village, in a conservative village, with her mental handicapped child. So they live in the periphery of the village, live in the periphery situation within the society.
Yeah.
And to console the desire of a child as the last escape, as the last consolation what a mother can give, it is a tragic ending of this story, which can lead nothing else than to the double suicide or the suicide.
Yeah, that was really shocking, I have to tell you. But can I imagine that in Hungary, in those times, maybe even today, such traditional villages cannot really help such people. Authorities of course cannot help. How did they behave such a manner? I was a little bit surprised because this child who was, how could I say, so much abnormal, they brought him to the hospital. The hospital couldn't help. Power couldn't help people.
It is a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
In a traditional society, if you are different,
Yeah.
there is no culture for handling the situation.
But
So it's
can
very easy to be on the side. It's very easy to be on the margin of this local society.
But can I interview? It must have been a Catholic society, and there must be how they go mercy, irgalom, how they call it in Hungarian. They couldn't help her. She was left alone. I was very amazed how this works. Does it really still work in Hungary?
Theoretically, these traditional cultures, the traditions, can handle the situation like this.
Yeah.
There are traditional institutions that has to help.
Hospital?
Of course, hospital or the local church or the traditional moral also has to help.
Yeah.
But in the real life, sometimes these communities
You mean it's only ideal?
cannot handle. It's the ideal, but in the real life, we see that it doesn't work several times.
This may be a very nasty question. Does this kind of morality still live in Hungary? To push away such people who are not, how could I say, fit for the social life?
We saw in the last couple of months that there was a campaign against LGBTQ people in Hungary by the conservative rightist government, which was a nonsense. It was an ideological campaign. It was much more than the average people feel against LGBTQ people. It was an ideological tool, but it can make the society ill.
Yeah. It sounds very peculiar, as if Hungarian society is going back to the, how could I say, to the old times of 20s and 30s. Sorry to say this.
Yeah, and the campaign like this can deteriorate on the level or cultural level of a society.
And the last question, he is referring to me that we have to stop. How does the so-called upstart intelligentsia in Hungary react to that? They should do something, perhaps.
There were several reactions on it. There was a great demonstration. Almost 300,000 people were demonstrated on the Budapest Pride, which was a very strong answer to this campaign. The government tried to stop this, the government tried to ban this, but it didn't help them. There were hundreds of thousands of people who demonstrate that they will fight for the rights of minority and rights of the people, rights of the LGBTQ people. So the society cannot be pushed back to the 19th century.
But on that count, I would suggest that there are minor, little, small democratic societies or Tarsashag, or how they call it, associations who want to change things.
I didn't catch your point.
I think that there must be in Hungary many such societies for younger generations who can come together and find new ways to cope with democratic deficit.
There is, and of course there are parts of the society who has problems to tolerate the new things, and of course yes, but the culture and the education made it understandable for a new generation that this has to be accepted, and I think the society is more open to LGBTQ people that the government shows.
The last question, is Hungarian society on the normal, how could I say, advantage people level going to the conservative or to the progressive side? How do you find the generation now?
I think the younger generation is more open toward liberal ideas than the older generation. But
Do you think,
still,
for instance, Mr. Istvan Bibo is more popular now?
I don't know. There wasn't survey on the popularity of István Bibo, and I believe that his book are used by the university students, and they read it.
Yeah.
But that we have to accept that the societies are not the same. People are not the same. There are more open people. There are more conservative people. But there has to be standards that shows empathy and shows exception to different kinds of minority.
Okay, that may be enough of politics. Can I ask a personal question? Do you still continue to write?
Yes, I continue writing.
Yep. What sort of things?
The new book of mine entitled The Grave of Kafka just has been published in Hungary. It is a second book that I dedicated to somehow the Kafka legacy in Europe. The first book was a novel entitled Kafka's Cats that was translated into 3 languages.
Oh, you are Kafka man.
The second book just has been published in Hungary.
Yeah, very good. Go on, man.
Thank you.